Drake's official reaction to being subpoenaed in the XXXTentacion trial has officially been released, as the trial is now currently almost 2 weeks in. We've learned so much about the passing of XXXTentacion, but the biggest surprise by far has been Drake's name involved in the court process. Before hearing Drake's reaction on February 20th, you first need to hear how it all originally started for it to make sense. On day 4 of the XXXTentacion trial, it was reported by news outlets, and I quote, "According to reports, Drake has reportedly been ordered to sit for a deposition in the XXXTentacion trial on February 24th. If Drake fails to show up, he's ordered to appear before the court on February 27th. Right now, the XXXTentacion trial is split between two sides. X's lawyers and everybody on planet Earth know 4 suspects, Michael Boatwright, Dedrick Williams, Trayvon Newsom, and Robert Allen, are the 4 guilty of X's passing, yet the suspects' lawyers are trying to make the claim that Drake is responsible and not his clients, as the defense must be making a pretty good argument, as Drake is now scheduled for a deposition. Today, Drake's team filed a motion to quash the deposition subpoena in the X trial, and this court document was shared today. Non-party Aubrey Drake Graham, by and through his undersigned counsel, according to the Florida Rules of Criminal Procedure, seeks relief from the demands contained in defendant Dedrick Williams' deposition subpoena for personal appearance set on January 27th, 2023, and files this motion to squash and protective order from the court in support thereof would state, as the Twitter thread continued stating, singer Drake's attorney argued in the courtroom this morning that the deposition subpoena was not served correctly and argued that Drake had nothing to do with the XXXTentacion passing. Judge told him to get with his defense and arrange the deposition. Now notice in that last statement it states, Drake was not served correctly for the subpoena. Well, Drake and his team has now announced how the subpoena incident went down, as it was shared on Twitter, and I quote, "Latest motion in the Drake deposition saga is in the XXXTentacion trial. Defense says when attempting to service the subpoena, the process server was greeted by guards who refused to accept service. They contend the guards literally kicked the subpoena down the driveway." As this was all explained in further detail, and it states, on February 14th, 2023, a California subpoena was taken by process servers to Mr. Graham, aka Drake's residence, where the prior subpoena was accepted on the previous service. The process server was greeted by guards who refused to accept service. The guards closed the colossal gate in the process server's face. After the gate closed in his face, the process server posted the subpoena, only to have one of Drake's security staff literally kick the subpoena down the long driveway that leads up to the Beverly Crest mansion, Drake's Beverly Hills residence. Security heard saying that, quote, "No one is being served here." Apparently, Drake's staff believes that kicking the subpoena is a legally sound way of refusing service. Now, sources claim that Drake gave his team instructions with his security that there's a chance a subpoena will happen, so do exactly what they did, don't accept anything, and let Drake's legal team take care of it. As many sources allegedly claim, there's a possibility that Drake could have some sort of involvement in the passing of XXXTentacion, leading to this entire thing happening. The suspects' lawyers are really trying to make the push to the judge that Drake had involvement, as this is what he said on the first day of trial.
Before X, he said, if anybody, it's Drake. And do you think that for one moment, here today, days after the event, 2 masked men, right? He came on social media and said, guys, if anybody, it's Drake. Do you think in that time span that they went and they addressed him, they talked to him? No. Do you think sitting here today, years later, any detective has ever asked, Drake or anybody like that? No, they never did that. So you ask yourself, how could that be? And you say, hey, it's so-and-so. You better believe so-and-so is going to get investigated. But in this case, they didn't do it. They didn't do it because it didn't comport with their version and their narrative. And as law enforcement, I think that they have the obligation to do so.
Leave a like on the video if you're a fan of XXXTentacion. I'm curious how many fans are watching today. The defense attorney stated in his argument, XXXTentacion said, "If I were to pass, then Drake did it." Now this was during an Instagram live stream to later even an Instagram story post made by X himself, where he stated, "If anyone tries to get me, it was at Champagne Poppy, aka Drake. I'm snitching right now." Now, X made this story post around the end of their famous beef, as the XXXTentacion vs Drake beef has been one of the biggest in rap history, as it all started when X tweeted, "Drake's mom is kinda cute," to later then X being arrested, and while sitting in jail, his hit song Look At Me would go viral in a huge way. With X's music career starting to skyrocket from that song, so did that tweet, as at the time it was his last tweet on his Twitter account before being arrested. So with the tweet going viral, Drake noticed it. He didn't like what he saw, so he released a song titled KMT, stealing the exact flow, speed, even a similar beat of X's song Look At Me, trying to take off from the hype. As a few months later, when X was then released from jail, he went straight to an interview where he would then start a massive beef online with Drake, calling him out for stealing his flow, as well as saying a lot of things just about Drake in general. Shortly after XXXTentacion would sadly pass away, Drake then released a song with these lyrics not too long after, where he said, and I quote, "Maybe I should do a 20, maybe I should break that 20, do a 10, maybe I should break that 10, do a 5, then if it gets live, do a 5 again. If he held his tongue on that live, he'd be alive again." Now these lyrics are obviously for entertainment purposes only, but let me break it down for you. If you break a 20, you get 2 10s. Then if you give a 5 and it gets live, do a 5 again. 5 plus 5 is 10, leaving you then with 3 sets of the number 10, as 3 10s in Roman numerals is 3 X's. Then Drake says if he held his tongue on that live, he would be alive again, as XXXTentacion went on several live streams on Instagram calling out Drake, as well as saying things about his mom, as shared earlier in the video. When Drake goes to sit for his deposition, he will be read out the evidence on X passing, as well as a walkthrough of a day in the life of X on June 18th, as this report will be read to him. On June 18th, 2018, Michael Boatwright, Dedrick Williams, Trayvon Newsom, and Robert Allen would be responsible for the passing of XXXTentacion. His day starts with him hopping into his BMW i8, driving over to Riva Motorsports to obtain a motorcycle that he wanted to purchase. While at Riva, he finds one he likes and gets told there's a cash deal if he pays all in cash. X would then leave Riva, calling his mother saying, "Hey, I'm gonna go buy a motorcycle," to which she would answer, "Okay, come pick up your uncle before going, for security and someone to drive your i8 back home." X drives home and picks up his uncle. They then head to the Bank of America, where XXXTentacion wants to withdraw $250,000 worth of cash, but is later denied by a bank teller by the name of Cecilia Ramos, as this footage of X getting the cash was released at the bank. Cecilia Ramos, the bank teller on this day, revealed to X that withdrawing $250,000 at once is not likely to ever happen. She can though give him 50 grand and order the rest for a later date. XXXTentacion then agrees, takes the 50 grand, and leaves the Bank of America. While him and his uncle walk towards his BMW i8, the 4 suspects sitting parked in a Jeep end up seeing X walk into his supercar. The 4 men then get the idea to tail the supercar as they follow him all the way back to Riva Motorsports. With X being a famous rapper and also showing that supercar on social media actively, the 4 suspects knew who it was. When XXXTentacion arrives back to Riva Motorsports, him and his uncle then hop out of the vehicle and walk inside. 2 of the suspects then leave their vehicle and follow inside. Meanwhile, the other 2 drive their vehicle across the street away from the security camera. With X and his uncle arriving inside of the shop first, they then start looking at motorcycles. With them already looking, the 2 men that followed X then enter the store, where XXXTentacion and one of the suspects actually make eye contact while walking by. These 2 men were planted inside of the motorcycle shop. They wanted to keep close eye on what X is doing, wanted to see what's in the Louis Vuitton bag, and if he was wearing any chains. As the suspects then get the idea of buying 2 ski masks and gloves inside a Riva just 15 feet away from X that would then be used in the crime later. X walked around Riva for quite some time. He didn't find a motorcycle that he liked, so he ended up leaving with his uncle and heading back to his BMW. The 2 men then quickly follow him out of the door and sprint across the street back to their Jeep with their other 2 friends. As XXXTentacion then sits in park in the driveway, he then starts leaving the parking lot. While X is starting to leave the parking lot, the 4 suspects then drive their vehicle in front of X's, making him not able to move anywhere. This is where 2 suspects hop out of the Jeep and then do the crime. Now, once that gets read out to Drake and his lawyers, it's going to be pretty clear that Drake had no involvement in this. It was just some lyrics that kind of hint towards the rapper, but also can be looked at as entertainment. It's very clear Drake had no part of this. It's just his lyrics kind of tie into it. If you're a fan of X and Drake, leave a like on the video and don't forget to subscribe if you're new. It's been District Trending and I'm out. Peace.